Hello, Vaughn. A busy time in Victoria with the legislature resuming next week.
Yes, and it's going to be busy. It's been busy, and the government, on Thursday we had a briefing, and they said there's 18 pieces of legislation, and they have already had protests here because the striking BC government, BC General Employees Union, staged a big shouting match outside the building Wednesday and Thursday of this week because the government caucus was meeting here. So their striking employees were outside with bullhorns and horns yelling and things. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting time or troublesome one, depending on how you look at it. But yes, we're going to be busy, especially 18 pieces of legislation. And Harold, a different legislature than the one that left in the spring, because as you know, the Conservatives have fractured again. So there'll be lots to talk and write about when we get going next week.
Let's get to that. But in terms of the bills, given we're talking about a government that doesn't have any money, so what can we expect to see from them?
Well, the big one that they mentioned yesterday and the Premier mentioned last week is the enabling legislation to build a brand new transmission line through northern British Columbia. It's called the North Coast Transmission Line. It would go from Prince George west to Terrace, and then there'd probably be feeder lines out from there. It's designed to provide a flow of electricity to a bunch of potential mining projects in the northwest of BC. So that's the big piece of legislation we're told to expect. The Premier told us last week that one of the key things in it will be partnership with First Nations, where they will actually own part of the transmission line and presumably collect royalties off of it. They've already signed agreements with 7 First Nations up in that area. The Premier also said the government's been forced to change its approach to building power lines. In the past, BC Hydro would, if you wanted a power line to a remote mine or industrial project, BC Hydro would say, well, you're going to have to help us pay for it up front. Investors won't do that anymore, says the Premier. So what's going to happen is the government's going to finance it. It's a $3 billion project. The province is hoping the federal government will provide some of the financing. And then when it's built, then and only then will the mines up there have access to the power, and the province will recover its investment by selling electricity to industrial customers.
Wow. And we'll have enough electricity?
Well, it's a very interesting question, isn't it? I've had people, since I wrote about it, it's in the paper today, people say, well, wait a minute, we're buying electricity from outside BC. So yes, we are. And when you ask and even though Site C has come on, right, and it's producing a heck of a lot of electricity, it's also all needed. So when you ask the government that question, well, where's power going to come from? They'll point to, this is true, BC Hydro has in the last few years issued 2 calls for private power generation in the province, and those projects will be approved and coming on stream by the time the power line is finished and the mines are open. So all of this will be spread out over time, but the government says they think there'll be enough electricity when it's needed.
Well, you mentioned it's a different legislature you return to. The NDP still has its slim majority, 47 seats, but there's been some musical chairs amongst the other 46.
Yeah, one of the 47 seats is the speaker. In the spring, the speaker had to step in twice and use his power to vote to break a tie in favor of the government. So they do have a 1-seat majority secured by 22 votes in 1 riding. So that's as close as it gets. The Greens have a new leader, Emily Lowen, but she doesn't have a seat in the House, so she won't be appearing in the legislature. If she wants to do a news conference, she'll have to do it out on the lawn or across the street. But the Conservatives lost another member recently. John Rustad secured his leadership in a leadership vote in the party and marked the win by firing his best MLA, Eleanor Sturko, critic on justice issues. I would say the member of the legislature that most intimidates the NDP. She's the one who forced the government to admit what was really going on with Safer Supply, that the Safer Supply drugs were being resold to drug dealers. Rustad was asked why he fired her. He said she was openly conspiring to get him removed as leader. And she pretty much admitted that she was. So Rustad said most political leaders wouldn't stand for that. But it's too bad in one sense, which is Turco was a very effective member of the legislature, and she won't have the resources that she did as a member of the opposition.
And what do you make of what's left of the Conservatives now? It's still a large number of seats, but we certainly saw signs during the leadership vote that they're not necessarily aligned.
Oh, they're divided, and Rustad had to fire a staffer this week for saying some stuff that sounded an awful lot like residential school denialism. And she's out there on social media protesting that she's pregnant and she was on the verge of getting a mat leave, and what she said was true. Anyway, Rustad fired her, and the party's divided. You can't deny it. It's obvious just when you talk to them that they're not all on the same page. And when you ask yourself what brings a smile to the face of every New Democrat, it is, and now the news from the BC Conservative Party, because whatever struggles they're having with issues and the public and trying to get stuff done, at least they're not in the kind of divided mess that the Conservatives are.
So there are no divisions as far as you can tell within the NDP. I did wonder that. They often will have a strong labor wing, and whether that group is feeling at all uncomfortable with the BCGU situation.
The Hospital Employees Union went back to the table yesterday, Thursday. Community health workers are at the table. Other unions are negotiating, and the government, New Democrats that I talk to, are bewildered, frankly, over why the BCGEU is asking for so much when the government can't afford what's on the table right now. And they also don't understand why the BCGEU hasn't moved off its position. So no, I don't think they're divided on this. I think obviously there's some things that aren't working very well for the government, but it's not manifesting itself the way we've seen in the past, with serious dissension in the government caucus. They're hanging together, sticking together.
All right, Vaughn. Well, thank you. And we look forward to chatting at the end of next week, at the end of the first week back in the legislature. Thank you.
I'll let you know what the seating plan is and what's in the 18 bills we've been told to wait. So we'll see. They said they're going to have most of them ready right away. Farmer said he told his colleagues he doesn't want to get backed up in the session and have a whole lot of complaints about how they're having to bring in closure. He wants to see the bills next week. And so most of them will be there.
We'll see them with you. Thank you.